and welcome to another Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish sage himself, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Herzig. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Chris. Everything is good.
I love it. You are in a good mood, right? Why are you in a good mood?
It's New Year's Eve.
That's right. It is December 31st. We are doing our last Jew and Gentile podcast of the year, but also preparing.
Wait, is there applause after that?
You know, everyone's like, okay,
finally.
Is it over? That's what they're wondering.
Over.
That's right. Move on, people.
Out with the old, in with the new.
That's right. Well, you know what? I want to highlight some things that we're changing for this upcoming year, Steve, and it's a big one.
Of
Welcome
course,
in.
you never told me. I don't even know.
You do know. You do
We're
know.
changing something. What are we changing?
I'm going to tell you. I promise you know this. See, you're going to go, oh, I did know about that.
Okay.
And you have to tell everybody that you knew about it.
I will be honest.
Do you promise?
I promise.
Okay. So in the turn of the year for 2025, we're changing our name.
Yes, I did know that.
Ah, there you go. We're changing our name. No, we're not. We're still the Jew and Gentile podcast.
Not because we wanted to either. It wasn't like we needed to, and I'm glad we needed to. Because we're a kosher group.
That's right.
We're kosher. That means we do things fittingly.
That's right.
In a fit way. We found out that we were unkosher. We were treif.
That's right.
Unclean. And hey, you fill in the blanks, but essentially we found out we were treif, unclean. We were using somebody else's thing. We didn't know. We're trying to do the right thing. And to do the right thing, you have to jump through a million hoops. We want to be kosher. We're kosher.
So in 2025, now listen, you're probably going to see, when you hear what our new name is, you're going to go, okay, what's the deal? That doesn't sound like it changed that much.
We had to go to a lawyer, Chris.
Yeah, we went to a lawyer.
I mean, they had to call back and forth, which I thank God for lawyers. I do. But I wish we didn't need them.
You know, some of the greatest lawyers are Jewish guys. You know,
I know.
You guys know
because
the law.
You know what they do? They talk
and they read.
They negotiate and they talk. They talk some more.
They go to the Talmud. They see the rabbis arguing. They go, "I can do this for a living."
That's right.
All right. Well, our new name is. You ready, everybody? Here it is. It's the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. See, it's not that bad. We're still the Jew and Gentile
it's
podcast.
Not bad at all.
It's the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. A couple months ago, we got an email from somebody. There's about 1,000 Jew and Gentiles out there, okay, doing various things, podcast shows, blah, blah, blah. And somebody just said, hey, we use that name, so you got to change it. So we hired or contacted a lawyer and said, hey,
no, we hired one.
Oh, that's true.
No, we had to pay. Remember, this is the group, we give everything free to everybody else, and we got to pay.
All right, the highball, what does it say about what we did with the lawyers?
Says, hey.
The highball says, no, and put on a sweater.
That's
okay?
right. You're such a schnorr. You give everything free, and you got to pay.
That's right. So,
we're happy to do that.
The Ganefs, they suck you dry.
That's right.
So anyway, we're the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast, and you might go, oh, that doesn't sound any different. But the reality is that with the Jew and Gentile, it's a very descriptive title. It's descriptive in the sense that it describes the Jew,
me,
Steve, and the Gentile,
you,
me, Chris Katulka, and really what it does is we have to link it to something that sets us apart from all the other Jew and Gentiles, because there's a Jew and Gentile
radio show, there's a podcast, there's
the discussion one. Yeah. I mean,
show. There's a show.
My favorite one is the Jew and Gentile walk into a bar mitzvah. Okay,
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
But there are a lot of them out there, and it was brought to our attention.
That's right.
Thus, we consulted with our people here at FOI. And we want to be kosher. We want to do the right thing. And so we said, okay, we were called on it. We didn't mean to do it. We didn't know. And so the lawyer said, if you use Friends of Israel first, that defines who is the Jew and Gentile. It's the Friends of Israel Jew and Gentile podcast.
And the reason we can use Jew and Gentile is because literally, if we ever have to, defend it, we are the Friends of Israel, Jew, Steve, Gentile, Chris, podcast. And he goes, that's going to be enough there. So we are the Friends of Israel Jew and Gentile podcast. We're the Jew and Gentile podcast, but with Friends of Israel. And I hope we didn't set you up too much because you're probably going, well, what's the big deal? I always thought you were the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast.
I'll show them the bill from the lawyer, and that'll show them what the big deal is.
I think we're also maybe even getting this trademarked and registered
in Israel.
In Israel, that's right.
In Israel,
that's right.
Actually, all things work together for good to them who love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. So we joke about it. It's funny, and it's even frustrating. But you know what? We got this in the mail. The person was upset enough to a Christian guy who said, "Hey, I just want you to know this. You need to know this." Okay. So we let him know that we acted upon his request to us, and so now we're kosher. So I'm happy. We're kosher. The Lord worked it out. Sei gesund, live and be well, and here you go.
That's right. So our new name, I've got to keep working on it too. Is
the Friends of Israel, Jew and Gentile.
That's right. So let me practice it. Hold on. Here we go. So here we go. I want to see how it feels.
Practice.
This is a little practice.
The show isn't over. We're not done.
All right, here we go.
Have a nice day. It's New Year's Eve.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's see. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Friends of Israel, Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish... How's that? Was that okay?
That was good. That was very good. Now we got to remember doing it.
It's just going to take me some time, Steve. I'm going to have to come in here and practice that one.
We got to get new cups.
I know, it's true.
We got to get new cups.
Right.
We got it.
Another new thing for 2025, and you know this, okay? So don't tell people I didn't tell you, is that we are upping our sticker game.
We are.
We're going to up our sticker game. Typically, we've been asking you to text in, which we still want you to text at 424-444-1948. Text us your thoughts, your feelings, what you want, what you don't want, all of it, Let us know what you think about.
We're in big trouble. What are your thoughts? We're in trouble.
That was the original concept for the text line. It turned into the sticker text line, which is perfectly fine. But we want to be able to send you, you can still text us, but we're going to be sending you to a website where you can actually type in your information, and that way we can get it to Alice, because I wish you could all see. I'm not lying. If you've received stickers from us, free stickers, you get 50 free stickers from the Friends of Israel supporting Israel and the Jewish people. We want to send them to you, and the way it's been working is that you text us, and I'm not lying to you. It comes to me. Yep. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. It could be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It could be any time. It could be picking up my kids from school, whatever. Boom, I get a text. I copy what you write, and it will say, I want stickers, and your name and your address. And I copy that, and I put it on a Google Doc that goes to Alice Herzig, and then she fills it out. And she sends you the stickers. So it's a very, I would say, archaic way of doing things. I get it. I copy it. I move it in. We're trying to make it so that we can make it a lot more seamless, so that you get your stickers and Alice is seeing them all come in and things of that nature. So anyway, we're going to up our sticker game this year, Steve, and we're still giving out free stickers. We're still trying to make it so that people can support Israel and the Jewish people, all because of the free stickers that we give out here at the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast.
Well, Chris, I do have to tell you that when I taught the Hanukkah session we had, you did the first week, I did the second week, and we had a gal from Ireland on, and I was talking about stickers. I shared a story about the stickers. We've already shared that story, and a Bible study was started because of a sticker on a phone. And so I said, if you will text us at 424-444-1948, and I gave him the spiel and said, make sure you put your name and address on. So one of the women there said, I'm in Ireland. It's too expensive to send those stickers. And my wife is listening because I'm on the computer, and she's listening to the course as we're teaching it. And Alice said, no problem. We'll pay for it. You just let me know. In fact, don't even have to text. She said, Steve, tell them my email address. I said, okay. So I gave them.
This is all happening during the course?
This is happening during the course. And so I said, aherzig@foi.org. If you email Alice, no matter where it is, she will send them to you at our cost if they're overseas. So sure enough, I think we got 17 people who sent her emails, and we just brought them here. She put them all in bundles, and we're taking them here, and we're telling Aaron, these specific ones, the Herzigs are paying for. You ship them out, but we'll pay for them. And I'm thrilled. Alice is a back person. She doesn't like being in the front. She doesn't like to
We
talk.
always invite her on the podcast. She does not want to come.
Not interested in talking in front of people, but when she likes doing things in support of other people. This is her thing. Putting things in bundles, paying for it, making sure that it goes out. So we know that it's now international, Chris.
Yeah, that's great.
It's international that we are sending stickers out.
You know, we should have just named the podcast Free Stickers. You know, at Friends of Israel's Free Stickers podcast. This is all we talk about all the time now is free stickers.
But Chris, as funny as it is, and we joke a lot, this is a ministry. I am finding this is a ministry by sticking a sticker on your computer, on your phone, on your water bottle. You are actually saying, I want people to know, just like that young man who told you where it was on his guitar, Israel's important to me. I just talked to a woman who had the sticker on her phone and ended up with a Bible study at a phone place. And I called her on the phone to say, hey, that's really brave of you. Today in our culture, in some places, people will see I love Israel, and that could get you looks or maybe derogatory language. And you know what she said, Chris? I don't care. I mean, I don't care. Her name's Pat, and she said, I don't care. I love Israel because God loves Israel.
Preach.
Chris, who would have thought
Preach.
that a sticker could be used of God in such a way to create a Bible study? It's amazing.
It's amazing. All right, Steve, we're turning the year here tonight. It's December 31st, and hopefully we'll get this podcast out so that people can listen to it either today or tomorrow or in the coming days. But we're turning the page on 2024. We're going into 2025, and you did a little research.
I did a little research. I had a little time on my hands.
I know you've got a lot of time.
I got a hip, I got an eye, I got all kinds of stuff.
Well, you got a hip replacement and a bubble in your eye.
And a bubble in my eye.
How's that bubble doing? What's going on?
The bubble's still there. It's a little smaller than it was. Hopefully, in another week or so, it will be gone. But retina surgery and a hip replacement and. But anyway, I'm doing great.
Your brain's still there. Your heart's still working.
Brain's still there. Alice told me that the day of the surgery, I don't know if I can't remember if I told you this, but so it's Saturday night. Sunday morning was going to be the surgery, and I'm up. I'm doing research on what's involved in a surgery, and so I'm about 4:00 in the morning. I text her to say, "Oh, the surgery's scheduled for 7:30, and." You could just go to recovery at 10. And then I said, by the way, Assad is in trouble and the tanks of Israel are now on Mount Hermon. And so my wife, after the surgery, would come in, she said, what, were you on drugs or something when you sent it? I said, no, this is big event. I'm trying to follow what's going on in Israel. So I got a hip thing. That doesn't mean my brain isn't working. That was a monumental thing. Chris, do you realize right now that they took the other side of Mount Hermon?
Oh, yeah, big time.
And they covered an area that it changes the whole geopolitical routine in the Middle East.
Yep.
They now occupy and destroyed. So anyway, I told Alice, this is big, but
and then you went under.
It wasn't big to her.
That's right. And then you went under and got your hip replaced.
That's right. So
that was the last thing you read.
So anyway, I did research and I wanted to find out about New Year's. What do we do on New Year's? Chris, I could tell you that through the years, we've celebrated New Year's Eve in different ways. We were in Chicago, and we had a Jewish guy that we were sharing the gospel with, and our church people were at somebody's house, and we wanted to pray the New Year's in. Have you ever done that before? Midnight comes, and a group of believers, we want to pray for a great New Year and all that. And so we're at somebody's home. Most of the people are Christians, not all of them, and we just said, it's at midnight, we're going to pray the New Year in. Everybody held hands, different people requested prayer, and we did it. And then one of the guys who is Jewish, he was upset. And so I asked him, why are you upset? He said, well, I come here and you guys pray the New Year's in. You didn't consider my tradition. Oh, okay. Well, what's your tradition? He said, Indian. I said, Indian? Like India? No, American Indian. I said, I thought you're Jewish. I am Jewish, but he said, the way the Indians did it was the best way. I said, so what do you do? He said, I dare you if you're willing to do it with me. So I got a bunch of guys. So it's now like 12:30 in the morning. It's New Year's morning, and we're outside, and he's got tobacco in a pouch.
You're kidding.
No. And so he said, so we gathered in a circle, and he threw tobacco to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. And I don't know what he was saying. So I said, oh, look, you sat through, we prayed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Who we praying to? He wasn't sure. He wasn't Indian. He was Jewish.
That's mind-blowing.
But he adopted the Indian culture. So look, okay, that's everybody celebrates New Year's differently.
All right.
And so,
Sei gesund. Live and be well.
I guess so. So I looked it up. Well, listen, Chris, ancient Mesopotamia, the earliest known New Year celebration was the Akitu Festival, which began on the first new moon of the spring equinox. It lasted 12 days.
Wow.
12-day New Year.
That's going
Does
well
anybody
into
go
the
to
month.
work? I mean, what? So they carried statues of Babylonian gods through the city. 12 days.
For 12 days.
Ancient Egypt. The New Year began with...
Wait, and that happened at the spring equinox?
That's what it says.
So that means that
Sometime
their New Year
in
was
March or... Yep. The New Year begins with Sirius. This is Egypt, the brightest star in the night sky. In July.
in July. Okay.
Yeah, so it's, at least in America, July. Oh, it's nice outside, right? It coincided with the flooding of the Nile, which helped irrigate farmland.
Okay.
So it's New Year, so take care of the farm. Okay, now Persia. The New Year began with the vernal equinox, March 21st. They included giving of eggs.
That is interesting.
For productivity. So there you go. Ancient Greece. The New Year began with the winter solstice, December 21st.
Wait, which one was that? Greece?
Greece. Ancient Rome. It started in March 1st, but as I told you, it's interesting. What happened is, in the 46 BC, Julius Caesar had to add 90 extra days when he introduced the new Julian calendar to make it January 1st. So January 1st comes out of Rome. So my question...
Isn't July named after Julius? Is that like a thing?
Well, they're all named after some god.
Yeah.
But when I sent you the research that I did, I asked this question. Did God begin the year in the middle of winter?
That's a good question.
Did God be... No! We're not having New Year in the wintertime.
Yeah.
If you read the Bible, you know when the New Year begins. When is that, Chris?
Well, it all depends. If you go back to the original New Year, it's Nisan 14.
Nisan 14. So the new year actually begins Nisan 1.
That's right.
And Nisan 1 is spring. It's when winter is over.
That's right. And we're welcoming
Bye winter. Hello sunshine.
Now we're right in the middle of the cold and all the darkness. It's the lowest. You know, actually, just FYI, if you listen to the podcast, you know how much I love summertime. You know, the only great thing about what's happening, Steve, is we're on the rise now. We're
getting more sunlight.
We're getting more, especially where we live. I'm sure there are people that are listening in Florida. They're going, I have no idea what you're talking about, or in nice areas of the country. But where we live in New Jersey, we're on the rise. We're moving up into greater things. But, there's also different traditions in different countries when it comes to New Year's, too.
No question about it.
Can I read some of them?
Yeah,
I've got them here.
do.
Do you know that in Spain, people eat 12 grapes at midnight on New Year's Eve to bring in good luck and prosperity? Okay.
That's good. 12 grapes. I don't know how you only eat 12.
What? Maybe the 12 months? I have no idea. Okay.
Good for them.
In Denmark, people smash old dishes against the doors of friends and family to release negative energy and wish them good luck.
Happy New Year.
That's right. Throw that plate. You'd be good at that.
I'd be great at that.
Watching you throw that candy at the kids a couple months ago, I think you'd be great at.
I'd love that.
In Italy and Spain, people wear red underwear for luck.
How do they check up on that?
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
Keep it to yourself. Setting off fireworks in China. Rosh Hashanah, of course, the New Year, but that's in the fall time.
Again, notice two cracks at it from a God point of view. March or September. Much better than winter. Much better than in the middle of winter. Now, I realize if you're in Australia, I don't think we have any of our 7 listeners in Australia. It's summertime there.
Yes.
It's warm already there. But New Year's and winter, only the Romans would think of that.
You know, I was telling you this before we started the podcast, but Einstein's theory of relativity shows that time is relative. And it's funny how we get set in our time is this, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's our framework for time. But if our planet was any bigger or any smaller, time would be totally different. The day would be longer, the day would be shorter, etc. So the other day I was watching, did you ever see the movie Interstellar? You should watch it. Interstellar, it's a long movie, but I watched it with my kids for the first time, and it deals with the issue of time and space and all that stuff. And my kids' brains were, like, how is it possible that someone could travel out at the speed of light so far and not age as much as the people back on? It just was blowing their mind. This is another little way to show time is such a relative thing. Like, all these people gauge time and the year and all those on just different ways of seeing.
Well,
how
the Earth spins around. It's 24 hours to go around one time. But as you said, what if it's bigger? Can you imagine? We're paid by the hour, or we're paid by the day. If you get paid by the day and you're in a different planet, you got to get more money than on Earth.
That's right, 100%.
Or if it goes quicker, you make less money.
I think on Jupiter, like a year, I forget what it is, but a year is like forever. It's like 500 days.
How old are you? I'm 5. Oh, man, you're old.
That's right. But
I'm 6 months.
That's exactly. Time is such an interesting thing. But for God, time is bupkis. Time in God.
He's outside of time.
He's outside of time. And so we gauge everything based on December 31st. It's a new year. We're all going to celebrate as we go from one year to another, which is amazing. It's a part of our culture. It's the way we govern time as humans. But in today's age, as you were talking about with Julius Caesar changing things, just to get the calendar
90
right.
more days. I grant you 90,
Yes.
90 more days in 46 BC out of nowhere.
Well, that's I was when I was teaching intertestamental history to the students at Word of Life. I said, what year was Jesus born? And 0. I said, actually, he was born 6 BC. And they all look like, wait a minute, like their brains look like they exploded because it ruins their whole mentality of time. Wait, what? I said, well, Herod the Great didn't die till 4 BC. You need a Herod for the story of Jesus. So either Jesus is not real or somebody messed up a calendar. And that's what happened, that when you make a calendar, there's nothing perfect about it. Only God understands time perfectly.
How old was Adam 20 seconds after he was created?
I don't know. What is it?
How old is he?
I don't know.
He just got here 15 seconds ago. But was he a little baby? No, he was probably somewhere what we would call 25 to 35 years old. He was an adult. Because immediately or pretty soon he gets a wife. So if you cut down a tree a week after creation, how many rings would be in the tree?
I don't even. It gets set in place the way God created.
So the tree is a week old, but you cut it down. It's got 55 rings. Wait a minute. How could it be 55? Who knows? I don't know.
That's right. Zygazun. But that's why time is, when you hear about these like different, nothing is set in stone when it comes to, only thing set in stone is God. That's it. God is the orchestrator of all these things.
And we do know that, Chris, have you ever made a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. So give me some of your resolutions and if you did it or didn't do it.
All right. Well, I will tell you, every year's resolution is to lose some weight. Okay. I mean, that's basically, and to live more healthy.
Okay. And how's that been going for you? You're much skinnier than you were last January.
Well, I've been working since last January and the January
you
before
go to the
that.
Schwitz. I know that.
I went to the Schwitz last night.
People don't know what the Schwitz is.
Oh, I go to the sauna. And I sit in there and I sweat it out and have some of the greatest conversations with people in there, So But I like to go work out for a little bit. I like to eat healthier, and that's what.
So tell us, what is healthier than what you were? What did you cut out or add that was better than the previous year?
So 2 years ago, I made a New Year's resolution to stop to intermittent fast, which means I would eat I wouldn't eat breakfast. So I would stop eating at 8 p.m. and I wouldn't eat again till lunchtime, 12 p.m. And I did pretty good, and I lost maybe 15 pounds, but I was still eating whatever I wanted. And I kind of plateaued. I was working out, I was doing my intermittent fasting, and I wanted to lose some more weight. And I thought, something's going on here. So I said, I'm still eating junk. I still come home and I grab a bag of Doritos, or I'll eat, whatever.
As long
cake.
as it's between 12 and 8.
That's exactly right. I was in that time frame, and I did lose weight, but it was plateauing. So I said, that's it. I just got to cut the junk out. So that's what I did. I stopped eating. And you know this because I don't eat bread. I used to get sandwiches when we go out for lunch. Now I just get a salad, and I try to stay as honest and true to that. And I've lost more weight, but I still want to continue to do it. Somehow maybe I just got to stop eating altogether. I have no idea. But the point is that I have a New Year's resolution, and it usually revolves around being healthier.
Well, I was thinking, thinking of New Year's and doing all this research about what other countries and empires did and their calendars. So here's a little outline that I worked on and got with some help online.
Now, we didn't talk about this.
No,
you didn't tell me about this. You didn't tell me bupkis.
I didn't tell you with my mouth, but I did text it to you.
That's true.
You had the
I do have the show notes.
But let's inform our listeners. You just getting over. Look, I had a hip. I had an eye. You had I don't know, some sort of disease.
I had a cold or whatever.
You've been battling. We can even hear it through your voice. You're still coming on the other end. So I'm sending you stuff and you're not paying attention, which I fully understand. So
thank you.
The idea of, as Christians, I was thinking, okay, as a Christian, I told you, I've been a participant in praying the New Year in. I've also done stuff. We had a tradition back when I was in Chicago with certain friends that we met every New Year's Eve with our kids and their kids and had certain foods and enjoyed, played games, blah, blah, blah. Did different things. But I was thinking of a resolution. What's your New Year's resolution? Well, part of it, from a Christian point of view, I resolve. You thought about your weight. And what you're really saying is, I haven't been taking care of myself. You're confessing. Mm-hmm. To yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what? I don't like what's going on. And so I want to change what's going on. And so that's really confession. It brings me to 1 John chapter 1 and verse 9, where it talks about if we confess our sins. So you're confessing.
Confessing my gluttony.
I'm eating the wrong things and too much.
Mm-hmm.
The text says he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins. So you say to yourself, I'm going to do this, and you change. Lamentation says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. Mm-hmm. So we think of a resolution for God and first say, Lord, we're trusting you for this year. My part is examining myself. We're coming in fresh for a new year. Another thing after resolution is remembrance. You read the Bible, you were saying, oh, I eat too much. You were looking back at what was, and you're deciding, I'm going to get redeemed. I'm going to change. I'm going to be set free of what I was. And so God does that, and he did it with the children of Israel. That one-day event is brought up in the Bible, the Older Testament, even the New Testament. It's brought up how God redeemed us with his right hand, and we remember his faithfulness to us. And so as we approach the new year, you look back at your year, you examine yourself, and you're saying, Lord, help me. I did this, and now I want to do this, and I remember that you're faithful. And then I think of revelry. I asked Alice, I wanted to make sure every thing started with an R. So revelry. Is that a I said, Alice, revelry. You're the person, the proofreader. Is revelry a bad word? Does it have a bad connotation? I think of revelry. I think, oh man, people just drinking,
partying, and doing whatever they want. Yeah.
Well, actually, I looked it up, and it's just happiness. It's enjoying. It talks about enjoying games, spending time with friends and family. Oh, revelry.
You put together a sermon here. Great job.
So Psalm 118, this is the day that the Lord has made. I'll be glad and rejoice in it. So tonight, when the new year strikes, we can rejoice that God's given us a new year. And then the last R is realize we will be closer to the Lord's coming than we ever were. Right now, this minute, we are closer to the Lord's coming than we were before.
So go through the R's again.
So resolution. You gave us the example of resolution. It's really confession. Remembering the past faithfulness of God. We remember there had to be blessings during the past year. There's always problems, but there's blessing. How did God show his faithfulness to you during the past year? We remember what he has done for us. But then we have revelry. I'm taking my grandkids tonight to a fireworks display at 7 o'clock. We're going to go in the parking lot of a mall. Sesame Place has fireworks, and we're going to enjoy. We're having cheese pizza. Why do kids only want cheese pizza?
I have no idea.
It drives me crazy.
I agree with you.
No ingredients. Anyway, we're having cheese pizza.
They do the same thing with pasta. Just pasta and butter, please. Pasta and butter.
Anyway, so revelry. This is the day that the Lord has given to us. And then we realize that the Lord's coming. He can come at any moment. And by the way, we would welcome that. And it's God's timing. We have no control over. We do have control over, hey, a new year's coming. How do we want this new year to be better than what it was this past year? And we make decisions about that. So not just wait's important. Reading the Bible in a year. I know many Christians say, I read the Bible once through last year. I want to read it twice this year. Those are good things. And we think of New Year's, and there's some verses, Chris. I have some verses.
Before you get to it, can I ask you a question?
Sure. I don't know if I have the answer.
I think you'll have something up your sleeve here. Last night I went to the Schwitz.
Yep.
Okay. And
define the Schwitz again. Some people.
It's just a sauna.
That's right. Schwitz means to sweat, actually, in Yiddish.
That's right.
And the only way to do that is be in New Jersey in July or August. You'll schwitz as you come outside. Or for you, if it's December 30th, you just go to the sauna and you schwitz.
You schwitz. Okay, the 4 stages of Jewish exercise, Steve, do you remember? It's stretch, kvetch, schwitz, and plotz.
Yep.
Okay? But when I was in between the stretching and the kvetching and the plotzing, I went to the schwitz. Okay? And I normally don't go at night, but because we're not in the office, I went at night last night. And I get there, and the parking lot is packed. And
they're all schwitzing because they're going to be doing a lot of eating today.
Well, that's true, but I was also thinking people are getting started on their New Year's resolution. I mean, the park, and then I get into the schwitz, and it's like...
standing room only.
Well, I fortunately got in there, and somebody had just left. I sat down, and then a load of people come in, and I'm like, this is crazy. How do you prevent the problem with a resolution? And if we're thinking about this in a spiritual sense, is that usually a resolution? I mean, the statistics are out there. They start and they're there for 2 or 3 weeks.
Two or 3 weeks max.
Then it bottoms out again, and sometimes even gets worse than it was before. You know, now they're eating from the small bag of Doritos, the big bag of Doritos. If this is a model of the spiritual life, I think we can do that too.
Oh yeah,
I think we can have this desire, which is a great desire, to want to read the scriptures, to want to confess, to want to do, and then what happens is we kind of, once the resolution begins to work, round out, then all of a sudden we kind of bottom out again. How do we maintain? I think some of those things that you used in there were good for me to hear, to remember. Because when you remember what God has done for you in the past, I think that helps you move forward in a trajectory that is a healthy trajectory with the Lord and growing in Him. If you remember what He's already done for you, because then you're not, going, God didn't do anything, and you bottom out. I didn't lose the weight. I didn't see any change. But if you're able to look back on the past and see what God's done for you in your spiritual life, I actually think it helps you with your trajectory and wanting to grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. But I always hate it when a good resolution bottoms out. How do we prevent that in our spiritual life?
The Apostle Paul, what comes to my mind right away is the stress of the Christian life. There's stress.
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul said, that which I do, I shouldn't do. And that which I don't do, I should do.
Yep.
Oh, wicked man that I am. Now, there's debate among theologians as to whether he was a believer or not. I personally believe he was a believer.
Me too, yeah.
He's writing this letter, and he's telling the church at Rome, look, he didn't say it this way, but he's the Apostle Paul. He's on the road to Damascus. He's blinded. He sees the glory of God before he goes blind. A voice that cries to him. Nobody else hears it. He falls to his knees. And plus he spends 3 years in the backside of a desert, personally taught by Jesus. 3 years. And what happens? That which I want to do, I don't do. And that which I do, I shouldn't do.
Yep.
And I read that and I say, that's me. But that's actually a good sign, because that means your old man and your new man, which are strapped together. The illustration is that in Rome, when they had slaves that died, they were chained. They didn't get rid of the dead ones. They took the dead person, and the live ones had to carry them on their back. They weren't chained. They were not unchained. And so you have this dead weight on you, and you have, if you're going to get anywhere, you have to carry that person. Well, we have the old man and the new man, and they're striving against each other. So the desire we have, that's the new man. I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to go to church more often. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to get those stickers and put them on and look for opportunities. And then over time, a little bit of time, I do want to do that, but mañana. I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's the old nature and the new nature. And what we need, and like any athlete, it's perseverance. It's taking the discipline to say, well, I did it yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm doing it today. I got to do it now. You know, when I'm recovering from this hip thing, I was told by the PT person that she said, I love coming here because you're doing stuff without me telling you. She said, I go to places after they had surgery. I'll knock on the door. They won't let me in. Oh, they won't. Even,
they only let you in. Yeah.
They won't even let me in. They want to just sit and not do anything.
Yeah.
And that's man's tendency. The natural man has problems. Unless they're rejuvenated by the Spirit of God, change, we become a new creature. But we still have that old nature, and it battles against each other.
You know, my mind goes to the calendar system of Leviticus 23 too, where, you know, we've been talking about a calendar, is that throughout the year, God put these markers in place as these moments of reminder for the Jewish people, the reminder of his deliverance with Passover, and they'd have to celebrate that annually. The reminder of unleavened bread, of 7 days of eating unleavened bread, the reminder of the first fruits that God provided a harvest for them and the blessing that comes with that. And the same thing with Shavuot, all the way through to the Feast of Tabernacles, of God's presence, his protection, all of, you know, those are great ways. A lot of times when we do our resolutions, they happen in January and then they fall off. But in the calendar for the Jewish people, God was constantly reminding them of who they were, in a good way, forced to go stop and to go, God provided, God did this, God did that, to focus their attention on him throughout the year in order to give him glory, which I think is oftentimes the hardest part about living the Christian life, is the fact that every day is full of something. And in the calendar of the Jewish people, not that we have to celebrate it, I'm not saying that, but God shows us, even in the calendars, we're thinking about a new year, God would stop the Jewish people along the way and say, hold up, stop, and remember me. Remember what I did, and all of these, and not only just what I did in the past, but hey, look, you've got amazing bread to eat today. Why? Because I provided it for you.
And by the way, in Judaism, biblical Judaism, God just doesn't say, I want you to remember. He makes you eat your remembrance.
That's right.
So you got to eat bitter herbs. You got to eat them.
That's right.
And when you eat them, your eyes water, and you're remembering, hey, it's not good to be a slave. But on the other hand, you eat the chopped walnuts, the charoset, the walnuts, and the cinnamon, and the little grape juice that's in there, and the apples. Oh, a sweet year. That's Rosh Hashanah. When Jewish people celebrate the new year, they're anticipating a sweet year. There's apples and honey, And at Passover, there's the sweetness of the fact that there's freedom. So maybe as Christians, we're not bound to, but maybe we ought to start thinking about some foods that we could eat that could low carb, high protein. So tonight, Chris, make sure no rice, no pasta, no sugar,
100%.
just protein, and say my resolution is I'm losing weight. I'm high on the protein.
That's right.
But let's look at some verses, Chris, that maybe is helpful as we approach this year. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creature. We already talked a little bit about that. The old has passed away, and that's true, but the old doesn't go away until we get glorified bodies.
100%.
Or Isaiah, remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I'm doing a new thing.
Yeah.
That's a good one. In Isaiah 43, verse 18. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Or how about Jeremiah? I know your plans. Chris, I know your plans. You want to lose weight. I have for you, declares the Lord, plans of welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.
That's right.
Those are some of there's other verses, and Chris, we could put these in the show notes if you want.
We'll make a link so that people can see your thought process as you were writing all that stuff out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Steve, one of the things that we were just saying is that not only did God have a calendar system for the Jewish people to put them throughout the year to remind them of who he is, but even weekly, they were supposed to do that. Even weekly, they were supposed to celebrate and honor the Shabbat. To stop working and to honor the Lord, to give time to him. And what's interesting is that this is my connection here, Steve, to the news, because we're about to go to the news, is that we're seeing an issue in today's culture in the church where churches close their doors, ABC News reports, as fewer Americans attend. One of the ways to revitalize your relationship with the Lord, and it's the reason that we have a command to gather together, to worship together, is so that we can stop during the week on a Sunday and we can focus our attention on the Lord and to fellowship with people who are like-minded. But more and more, we're seeing that churches are closing their doors as fewer Americans attend.
Listen, Chris, it says in the 40s, 80% of Americans belong to a church or synagogue, mosque, or temple. Today, 45%.
Yeah, half.
It's half as much in really 70 plus years.
Houses of worship around the country are adopting varying strategies to survive. Another thing that I believe this mentioned in this article that we'll post in the show notes is that, here it is. Some of the oldest churches in the world have turned into bars and nightclubs. When we first moved from Dallas to here, we were looking around for a church, and we found a fellowship at a place in Philadelphia, in the original First Baptist Church of Philadelphia that goes back to the early 1800s. It honestly, Steve, when you walk in there, you actually feel like you're going into a Catholic church, but it's just an old Baptist church. And the thing that actually set it apart from the Catholic church, everything else, it looked like the ornate
stained glass windows,
the big lanterns that came down, but down in the center was a marble pool. A marble, not a marble little tiny thing where you sprinkle.
A dunker.
A marble pool where you could dive into that thing. And the Baptists were making a statement early on. We baptize, you come in the deep
Immersion.
end. Immersion. So anyway, while we were there, the church that we were attending, they were kind of just filling the space for the First Baptist Church of Philadelphia. They were renting because the First Baptist had dwindled down to like 15 people, okay? And the church we were going to was growing. And so they eventually were going to either sell the building. First Baptist Church was going to sell the building to Nordstrom or to this church that was growing. And they decided to give it to the church that was growing, but it was about to become a Nordstrom, a department store. They take this old, beautiful church that has so much history in Philadelphia. It's right at Sampson Street and 17th Street, a very historic location in Philadelphia. And they were going to turn it into a department store. And fortunately, they didn't, and there's still churches, believers that are meeting in there, all of that. But the point is that what we're seeing over and over and over again are these churches are not only dying, but but now the buildings are being turned into the very opposite of what the church was intended to be to begin with. Bars and nightclubs and department stores.
That's right. And so we talked about as Christians, how do we celebrate the New Year's? There's less and less proportionately who are concerned about that. More people. Do you know, Chris, there's tonight scheduled to be 1 million, I think I'm accurate, 1 million people in New York Times Square.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I mean, I remember my kids when they were home, they wanted to do it once. A few of them. I have 4. I think 2 went, and my niece went. And they allow you to get into that space after a certain amount of time, and then they block it off. There's no bathrooms. It's the worst nightmare for me I could ever imagine, hanging around there 8 hours for what? To watch a ball? Yeah. And you could watch the ball on TV.
It could be raining. It could be snowing.
They're out there. Talk about revelry. I mean, with the coats and the hats and the no bathrooms. And, look, the ball went down. Oh, have a nice day.
It's hard enough getting a bathroom in Manhattan when you're just walking around on a normal day.
But anyway, that's what people like to do. I told you, we've celebrated differently over the years, but oh man, the idea of fellowshipping with people who are like-minded and coming together and praying with little kids and adults holding hands at midnight. Now I can't make it to midnight, so for me, I'm a pretty boring person. But back then, I made it to midnight, and the idea, a new year. Let's pray in a new year. You have the shrimp and the sauce and whatever you eat. People eat special things at New Year's Eve. I love all that, but some people, when I was in college celebrating the idea was, where are we going to eat breakfast? So you start on New Year's Eve, and you're at this party and that party. You're up all night, and then you eat breakfast and you come home. I did it. Yep. Big accomplishment. I could put it on my gravestone. He stayed up all night and ate breakfast on New Year's Day.
That's great. Hey, though, it's funny because it makes it seem like the churches are dying because people don't, they don't want to go to church, or there's that correlation. I don't care about God, therefore I don't go to church. But I'm going to tell you something. I run into more and more people. Sometimes they even come to our conferences, or sometimes even when I go to the Schwitz, I always bring in a book with me. And the book is usually having to do with the Bible or something. And I'll get stopped all the time by people, and they'll say, what was that book you were reading? And I'll say, oh, it's talking about this or that in the Bible. And, that's great. I love God. I love the Lord. I've been reading the Bible, blah, blah, blah. Oh, fantastic. I said, what church do you go to? I don't go to church. Wait, you don't go to church? No. I just don't see a need for it. Interesting. I don't know how often I encounter that a lot from people who say, I love the Lord. I read the Bible. I believe in Jesus. I don't go to church. That there is something about this number in here too, that it's a lot of times the correlation is, I don't believe in God, therefore I don't go to church. But I actually think there's a lot of people that do believe in God, that I think would even say they have placed their faith and trust in Jesus Christ, but they don't see a need to go to church.
COVID did a number on a number of believers. COVID did a number on a number of believers. I could tell you, and in my age category, some of the people liked it.
Yeah.
They like staying home. They're believers. Don't forsake the assembling of yourself. I'm not. I turn on my computer, but I like my jammies on the bottom, and I put a shirt on the top and have coffee with my feet up. They don't want. I've talked to pastors that they haven't recovered from some of the elderly who don't want to go through the hassle. But wait a minute, hassle. What hassle do we have compared to the early church? The early church, they could be killed for meeting in some places. What's our hassle? We got to get in the car. We got to drive. Oh, maybe we'll stop at the Dunkin' Donuts and get a coffee. And we got to drive however far and then get dressed. Hey, get dressed. Come. Look, I understand. I've talked with people about it. I do admit I have little unless they're sick, unless something is wrong and they can't drive, their eyesight, or that's a different story. I'm talking about being physically able to do it. But you know what?
The guy I saw was in the gym. He just got done powerlifting. He was in the schwitz, you know. He's
it's
doing
just too
fine.
much of a hassle.
Yep.
Or they'll use the idea of church has nothing to do with what it gets for you. That's what I think so many of us.
I totally agree with you.
You go to church, you, a person, corporately with other people, but you are going to worship Jesus.
You're treating the church remember they were
like
almost
a restaurant.
They were almost going to sell the church we went to Nordstrom Rack. Why? So you can go there and buy something for yourself and take it away, and that's it. Bupkis. We treat the church the same way. We treat it as if we're going in and I'm going to get something out of this and leave, instead of it being at the opposite way, which is that what can I pour into this church so that it helps the body of Christ. That is a completely dynamic shift in one's mind when it comes to the local church. Because a lot of times we look and we go, how's the pastor going to teach me today? I didn't like that teaching. How's the person going to do this?
That's right.
I didn't like that. Where if we treat it as if, what am I bringing into this? Because we're supposed to gather together. Why? Because, when we're talking about how do we maintain our spiritual life throughout the year, so we don't just bottom out after 2 weeks. That's what church is all about. Church is so that we don't forsake the gathering together, so that we can encourage one another to continue on in our relationship with the Lord, so that we can help one another, so that we can pray for one another, so that we can encourage one another. All of these things are designed to keep us moving along throughout the year.
As a young boy, I was in 5th grade. I read Profiles in Courage by John Kennedy, our president. And at his inauguration, he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Now, that's from an American citizenship point of view. That rang true for so many people. But Chris, when we go to church, we're saying, Lord, you saved me. You did the greatest gift you could ever give me. I am coming once a week to thank you, to worship you. And Lord, how do you want to use me for your glory? But our old man has the tendency, and I'm guilty of it. I think you are too. We're all guilty of it. It's, they didn't play the music I liked. Mm-hmm. And the pastor's mess. He stumbled. How could he wasn't prepared? How could he have used that scripture? I'm not, roast pastor every lunch on Sunday afternoon. Now, that's the wrong attitude. Mm-hmm. Our attitude should be, Lord, this is the place you called me. How could I be used? Help me to be open to the text that the pastor used, no matter what he says. What's the text saying? What's it saying to me? And I don't always do it. I'm preaching to myself. You don't know. We're all guilty of it. But I'll tell you, it would make pastors' lives a lot easier if the people coming, we're not coming to hear them. We're coming to worship the Lord. Mm-hmm. It would help every music person preparing, and they worked so hard, many of them, the worship teams. And we say, I don't like that song. Why'd they play that song? What do the words say? What is God trying to say to me as we come to this building as Christians? What is God trying to say to me? And how can I be used of you in this day, this year, as we think about it?
100%. Steve, it's Hanukkah right now.
It is Hanukkah.
And last night, when I was coming home from the Schwitz, just about 2 blocks from my house is an old library, and they like to use the front court of that library, and they have a manger scene out there. And
a menorah.
They have the menorah.
The Hanukkah.
The Hanukkah that's out there. And last night, the Chabad of Cherry Hill, I think it was the Chabad of Cherry Hill, came in, and they had a big, when I drove by, people were reveling. I can't even say that right. But they were out having a great time.
Having a great time.
They were right next to the menorah.
Potato latkes, the donuts, the whole thing.
I saw them eating. They had a big fire going on. It was really cool looking. But Hanukkah is going on. And in Israel, actually, there was news from the Jerusalem Post that came out that showed that the archaeologists have uncovered not just Gelt, it says in the Jerusalem Post, but it's coins that belong to the second king of the Hasmonean dynasty in a miraculous discovery. Now, the second king of the Hasmonean dynasty, if you're not familiar with the Hasmoneans, there's a period.
Descendants of the Maccabees.
There's only 3 moments in Jewish history where the Jewish people had sovereignty over the land of Israel. The one that starts with King David, essentially, and goes when King David takes control of the land, and he becomes the king.
He unites Israel.
He unites the
North
tribes.
and South. Yep.
And he expands the territory, and he makes it an amazing nation. King David and that King Solomon, and then it splits in half, of course. And then eventually they lose sovereignty because the Assyrians come in and the Babylonians come in. So there's that one, the Davidic dynasty, if you will, of the Israelite kingdom. They lose sovereignty. Then the second time they gain sovereignty is right here. When
intertestamental time.
That's right. It's about 165 BC through 63 BC when the Hasmonean dynasty, this Jewish dynasty, pushed back the Greeks and they take control. And the Greeks actually say that Simon, the son of Mattathias, the Maccabee, is the king of Israel. So they actually give him the ability to be the king. So Simon's son, Alexander Jannaeus, he is the second king, the official second king. And the only other time that Israel had sovereign control over itself is today.
1948.
So think about it. David, Hasmoneans, and today are the three times that the Jewish people have had sovereignty over the land of Israel. And so researchers unearthed 160 coins that belonged to Alexander Jannaeus' kingdom, the Hasmonean dynasty. The University of Haifa Zinman Institute of Archaeology announced just on Monday. And these coins come from between 80 and 79 BCE. And these coins were actually designed, it says, Gelt, the meaning of gold or money, is traditionally gifted at Hanukkah. While now it is common for children to receive chocolate coins, and the archaeology team discovered far rarer relics. All of our students and volunteers were very excited to find this Hasmonean relic, especially during Hanukkah. This gave the holiday an added sense of significance, especially during this difficult time for the Jewish people.
Isn't that interesting, Chris? Because the argument today, you'll hear it all the time, against the Zionists who have no right to the land and have no presence in this land whatsoever, denying it all over the place. And this is just another example of archaeologists helping us and defining, yes, indeed, we had a presence. And here's another example.
Now, Alexander Jannaeus, though, he's an interesting guy because, see, he's the one who goes down to these people called the Idumeans in south of Israel, in the Negev, in the desert.
Oh, that's a New Testament term, the Idumeans.
The Idumeans, he goes down there and he force converts them to Judaism. They weren't Jewish, but he force converts them, which actually doesn't happen in Jewish. Throughout Jewish history, Jewish people are not in the business of going and force converting, which means you have to circumcise yourself. You have to be circumcised. And so these Idumeans have to become part Jewish, even though they're not Jewish. Well, guess who becomes the future ruler of Israel in the New Testament time? It's a guy named Herod the Great. And Herod the Great becomes a very influential person when it comes to Rome and the land.
He's kind of Jewish.
He's kind of Jewish. Why? Because he's an Idumean. And the only reason that Herod was there was because several decades before, what happens is this king, the second of the Hasmonean dynasty, goes in and says, bada bing, bada boom, you're Jewish now. And that didn't really play well with the Jewish people decades later. But anyway, that's a little Jewish history for you. Steve, Hanukkah, they're finding Gelt.
And we're going to have show notes for people to read about.
We're going to have show notes for people to read about it, but we've got a Yiddish word of the day, everybody. Yiddish word of the day.
All right, Chris. Now, there's a little trouble here. I don't know if the FCC will get me on this.
We do need a bleep button here, I think.
Button.
A Christian bleep button.
Well, a good year in Yiddish. So tonight, it's New Year's Eve, and we want everybody to have a Gut Yor.
Gut Yor.
Gut Yor is a good year. However, if you want to say a good blessed year,
oh boy,
now that becomes a problem in Yiddish because of English. And
it's not Yiddish's problem; it's English's problem.
It's English's problem when you say it in Yiddish because it's.
But you're going for it.
I'm going for it
because the intent.
The intent is to.
Is pure.
I want a good blessed year.
That's
not
right.
just a good year. So if you're speaking Yiddish. And I'm not, you have to be able to say it. So here it is, a good Gebenschut year, or year. So it's a good Gebenschut year.
Okay, wait a minute. Slow it down now.
If I slow it down, then it's going to be trouble.
That's when we need the beat.
A good Gebenschut year.
Okay. You are a brave soul, my friend.
I'm just reading the Yiddish. What can I tell you?
You are the man.
But before we close, I want, on our board, we have Chris Randall Price.
Yes.
And I'm on his mailing list. He has a ministry. He's an archaeologist himself. And I really liked his letter, and I want to read it real quick. It says this: as the new year approaches, we want to commend you to exercising faith now more than ever. In Matthew 6:30, the Lord Jesus characterized his own disciples as men of little faith. If these men who daily witnessed the miraculous power of the Lord had little faith, can we imagine that we are better than they? Yet our Lord has told us that God, who cares for the tiny sparrows and numbers the hair of our heads, is even more aware and concerned for our needs than all his other creatures. It is for this reason that Peter said, casting all your cares upon him, because he cares for you. As one of God's choice saints once said, we do not need great faith, but simple faith in God's great faithfulness. That's a great way to usher in the new year, knowing that God is the one who's going to care for us. We place our faith in him and know that he is faithful.
Thank you, Dr. Randall Price.
Thank you, Randall Price.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being a part of the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. We've got an exciting 2025 coming for you, so be sure to
How do
come
they
on
get
back.
their stickers
All-
real quick?
All they got to do is go to 424-1948. Text us your name and your address, and I will make sure to move that right on to Alice, and Alice will mail you 50 stickers supporting Israel and the Jewish people for this upcoming 2025. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. We've got some great classes that you can be a part of for 2025. In fact, we've got Dr. Mike Stallard that's going to be talking about the foundations of our faith, biblical doctrine, upcoming classes this January. You can check out by going to foiequip.org. It's going to be a fantastic time. Again, that's foiequip.org, who sponsors the podcast. Hey, thanks so much for being a part. Have a happy new year. We'll see you next week.
A Gut Yor.